Greetings, humans. This is the deepest voice that I can produce. All right, deconverted man, and we've got proof of God, the logical failure of atheism. Oh, good. I can't wait. That just, I mean, let's just do it. I mean, let's just go.
This notion that God or the existence of an intelligent design or designer is impossible is not very true. Today I'm going to be getting into proof of God through logical deduction. This notion as a society that it is impossible to prove the existence of God or the existence of a intelligent designer as impossible is not very true. Through logical deduction, we're able to see that the existence of an intelligent designer is not likely or slightly possible, but the only way that it could be. In this video, I'm going to be presenting logical cases for God's existence, not through.
Dude's voice is deep. Did he inhale that? What's that gas? You inhale it and it makes your voice deep? Or is it a modulation? Or is that just his voice? He needs to do like movie trailers or something. Like, my God, that voice is deep. If that's his real voice. Anyways, I just had to overreact to that. Okay, now we're over it. We're over the voice being deep. We're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the logic of the argument, if it has logic, which I'm sure it will. Here we go.
Emotion, not through inherent belief, not through fear, but through reason, through deduction, and through observing reality itself. So let's begin with the foundational premise. So you look around and you are able to observe an incredibly complex galaxy, solar system,
I look around, okay. I'm able to observe a complex galaxy or solar system. No, not in my house. I would need a telescope to do that. And even if I had a telescope, I wouldn't be able to observe the entire galaxy with that telescope. I think I'm going to need some more equipment to really be able to do this. Is this look at the trees? Come on, this can't just be a look at the trees argument, is it? Nah, come on, it's not going to be that. Okay, we get what he's saying. Look at the galaxy and the complex system. Okay, yeah, okay, all right, sure, okay.
organisms, even things like trees and mountains. The fact that the solar system and the planets that inhabit it are so perfectly intertwined in place that make life possible in the first place. These things we're able to observe through science and through mere observation, yet seemingly we take all of this for granted.
The planets are in a perfect position to form life. Are they? I mean, does the placement of Pluto really impact? Well, okay, that's not a planet anymore. All right, fine. How about Uranus? Everybody loves Uranus. I mean, has anyone seen Uranus? Have you messed with Uranus lately? You know, it's sideways, Uranus. Anyways, is that planet placed perfectly, or could it be different? And would we still have life? And just a little problem I have here. If the planets were placed perfectly for life, wouldn't that mean that every planet would have life? What about the moons of the planets? Are they placed perfectly? And wouldn't they also have life on them? Or do you mean that the planets that we have are in some way beneficial for life on this one planet? And in what way are they beneficial? Could we do without them? If we didn't have Jupiter around, well, there'd certainly be more meteorites and asteroids that might hit us, and that might indeed disrupt life, but would it make it impossible? Well, we don't know unless we had another solar system to compare it to. another solar system where life also could be, but failed to be because the conditions weren't met. Also, given the number of different solar systems out there, wouldn't it be that the odds of at least one of them having a life develop at all would be pretty good? And what would those odds look like? Well, that would take mathematics to figure out. That would take complex calculations. We'd have to inference our own galaxy and assume that others are about the same size as, forget galaxy, I mean solar system, our solar system within the galaxy, that if they were all the size of ours, and there's as many as we observe, what would the odds be if like everyone was slightly different? And we're also assuming that different means no life, but what would that be? I don't know, and then you'd have some number and you could do some calculations. And this is something that people have done. Of course, the wildly different numbers and results they get from doing so makes one think that maybe it's not hard science. But people have done that. So is he going to at least do that? Or is he just going to say, hey, the solar system is perfectly made for life? It seems like he just said that. He just said that, right? That's it. He's not going to demonstrate it or prove it or anything. He's just going to say it. Okay,
Just because it's so normal, because this is the reality that we live. But these very things that I just listed, the forest, an organism, a person, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe that we inhabit, it's so normal to us to the point we don't observe the fact that that is a mere impossibility itself. The fact that
it's so normal to us that we don't realize that it's actually impossible. Hold on. I'm gonna consult my gotta consult this here. Hold on a moment. Let's see. No, that doesn't appear to be logical. I'm sorry, but if this was impossible, then we wouldn't be here. So you can't see something as impossible unless it's actually impossible. So you saying that it's impossible doesn't make it impossible. You'd have to demonstrate that it's impossible. But because we're here, then you can't possibly hope to demonstrate that us being here is impossible. So this is bad logic. Okay.
these things exist in the first place should show us that reality is not formed from randomness and not formed from the unintelligible. And in this video,
not formed from randomness or unintelligible. Well, no. Observation cannot give you the conclusion that you have reached, given that you haven't actually done the observation. You said, hey, look, we're here, there's stuff, and that's got to be impossible. So, therefore, my conclusion must be right. Well, you don't know that it's impossible. You just said that it was. So, you haven't demonstrated anything yet. So, I'm waiting for the argument. Any point here?
I'm pretty much going to be backing up this claim continuously. So the real question is, how does ordered structure emerge from the unintelligible or the complete?
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with snowflakes, but they're very interesting artifacts of nature. They form completely randomly, but make very intricate patterns and structures. Now, I suppose if you believe in a magical being that can control everything, maybe you believe that that magical being is secretly forming every snowflake in a nice little crystal pattern for us, and it appears random to us, but it's not really random, right? You could always do that little shift. So then there would really be nothing I could point to and say, well, here's an example of randomness coming into order, because you could always just move the goalpost back and say what seems to be random is actually structured by the invisible magical being that I believe in, right? But if you didn't do that for a moment and actually used logic, then you would see that, yes, there is example, at least one, the snowflake, of something that is completely random forming order. The chaos forms into order. That happens. And there's this thing called the Gullian board. I'm sure I mispronounced that. But let me see if I can find that here. Let me see. Where are you? You're in here somewhere. Where are you? There you are. Gallatin board. I don't know how to say this word. Let me put that on screen. I've mentioned this before, but it's worth looking at. So here's this Gallatin box or Quincyx or whatever, anyways. And you've got these little pegs, and you've got this thing, and you drop the balls from here, and they hit the blades, and they make this little nice little pattern here. Even though it should be random, and it is random, but they distribute in this nice, lovely way. Here you can see, here's all of these little beads, and look at it go, oh, that's so cool. And it's like they could have decided to all go this way or all go to the left or to the right, but they didn't. They formed this beautiful thing, and it's not like that this is a program. This is real behavior of randomness forming order. So there you go. Gallatin board, however you pronounce it. There's another example of randomness coming into order. So you haven't demonstrated that that's impossible, since there are at least two examples of it being possible. Anyways, what else you got?
Completely random. This is what atheists think. Just from unintelligible and random means. How does
Well, let me stop you. Atheists think is a broad statement. Some atheists don't think, but Well, but if you're not thinking, I guess you're asleep or dead. So, but I mean, technically speaking, but all right. No, atheism has nothing to say about the origin of the universe and or life at all. We just don't believe in God. So that's a category error, assuming what atheists think or say. No. But as far as the origins of life, that is science, and that is understandable through abiogenesis and then evolution after that. But I've come to understand that abiogenesis is really, really, really complicated. You need to understand chemistry. You need to understand mathematics. You need to understand some stuff like that to be able to really get it. The basics are kind of like, okay, I can kind of understand this a little bit. Like carbon loves grabbing like 4 different things. It just really loves it. I don't know why. Just the carbon is a slut of the elements, I guess. But it loves other elements. And it's like, okay, so if you're another element like oxygen, carbon's going to be, you're mine. Now you've got carbon and oxygen, and then that's going to make a new thing now that's together. It's now a different thing, and so eventually you get some complicated elements grabbing onto each other that make this more complicated structure. And they just did that because they could. There was no rhyme or reason to it, at least at the start. But what happened is the things that could grab on did. And if they, and then they did that, and that's all they did, and who cares? No story is told. And sometimes they try to grab each other and they'd fall off and they wouldn't work, and that'd be the end of the story. But sometimes they grab on and then they do something weird, and that behavior would enable it to grab onto extra elements. So then the elements that were doing this, that were doing that just because that's what they did, now had a different advantage than the elements not doing that. And because they had this advantage that wasn't given to them by anything at all, it's just that's how it works. Now they're out competing the other elements. And then eventually you get a thing that's really complicated that we would maybe start to call alive. And once you have that, then you really have something amazing going on. But that would be explanation of abiogenesis explained through scientific understanding that you don't appear to have at your disposal. So instead, you make a construct straw man saying that atheists think that life came from randomness. No, not at all. I think, as many scientists do, I agree with the science that the chemicals that are present in the early Earth formed the building blocks that eventually became what we would call alive. But that took a very long time to do. It's not random purely because there is a filtering mechanism of I can connect versus die off, even though it's not really dead, but we're just going to label it dead because it's going to, it's a little bit easier for me. I'm kind of a simpleton. So it's like, if it works, we're going to call it good. And if it doesn't work, we're going to call it dead, right? And so we have these little elements, just floating around where in the ocean, hot steam coming up from the vents of the earth, whatever. And they're, and they're just chilling there. They're not really doing much until they connect and make a thing. And then that thing, now that it's a thing that is more complicated than it was, and that complexity has arisen from this simple building blocks that is a complete result of the conditions that it is in. That isn't random. That is filtered to get that way through the mechanism of natural selection. But you wouldn't understand any of that because, screw science, right?
Symmetry arise from chaos? How does beauty arise from that which is not beautiful? How does consciousness itself arise from unconscious matter? It doesn't. These are things that atheists and agnostics have to struggle with and struggle.
So you can just say, oh, it doesn't. Okay, so consciousness doesn't just arise from soul or spirit. It just doesn't. There just isn't a God. There just isn't. That's it. I can just say that. Anyone can just say stuff. You need to demonstrate it. Also, you flashed something on your screen here. What was this that you flashed on the screen? That was really fast.
How does symmetry arise? Started just from unintelligible and random. This is what atheists think. Life itself has started just from unintelligible and random means. How does symmetry arise from chaos? How does beauty arise from that which is not beautiful? How does consciousness itself arise from unconscious matter? It doesn't. These are things that atheists and agnostics have to struggle.
Okay, he says, I was an atheist my whole life until a few years ago. I know this intimately. That's what he flashed on the screen real fast. Boy, that was worth me going through all that again. These questions that he has are interesting questions to, like, how does this work? How does that work? I don't know. Good question. Well, let's find out. What process are we going to use to find that out? Well, the only one I know that works for sure is science. That will give you the answers to these questions, unless you're not actually interested in the answers. I suspect the whole I was an atheist bit is the typical apologetic trope of I was an atheist, and by atheist they just mean I didn't really believe in God, but I was gullible enough to think that there could be a God. And then I became a believer once because I was like, oh, religion. Yeah, right. I can just do that. All right. Where was I?
with and struggle with continuously because it's such a conceptual quandary that plagues them. There's a level of cognitive dissonance that is involved with not realizing and not observing that beauty cannot emerge from what is unintelligible. We observe.
No, cognitive dissonance occurs when and if you attempt to hold two different conflicting ideas in your brain at the same time. For example, you don't understand life emerging from chemicals. You don't want maybe to understand that. I don't know. The information is available to you. So, I mean, I'm not really sure. But it might feel uncomfortable to confront the fact that humans and all living creatures and all life in general, trees and grass, and if it's alive, that it is chemicals and that everything came from chemicals, maybe makes you feel a certain way. That reality just doesn't feel fulfilling enough. It's boring. There's not enough to it. Don't you wish there was magic? Man, I just really want there to be magic. Life is just boring. So I'm just going to say that there's magic. Yeah, just believe. Yeah, sure. Why not? And that would be an example of cognitive dissonance. But no, it's nothing. I look for evidence of anything that is non-natural by looking at apologetic videos and looking for a valid and sound argument. So far, you haven't produced a valid argument, so you definitely can't have a sound argument. But you're talking about inductive reasoning, which you also aren't employing here. In fact, you're not employing any reasoning at all. You're just asking questions and saying statements without demonstrating that the statement is true. That's not good enough.
Molecular machinery within an individual cell that rivals human ingenuity and engineering. We observe DNA carrying more data than that of a library. We observe solar system.
Okay, so I'm guessing that you just pulled this stuff from a website or something, but I have an idea, and I don't know that I'm right about it. So I'm going to give it to you, my viewers, my friends, my fellow atheists, skeptics that watch my content. And I know you don't like leaving comments, but please leave a comment once this is an actual video, because I want you to explain to me the thing that I was going to say. What was I going to say?
An individual cell that rivals human ingenuity and
right. I'm sorry. I was like trying to explain what I was trying to explain. My brain went, Anyways, okay. The comment I want you to leave. Sorry. I think I have a hypothesis of where he get this from that he's saying. I think it's ChatGPT. I could be wrong. You let me know in the comment, okay? Here's why, okay? Journey with me into the comment section where I posted, by logical deduction, you mean broken, malformed, illogical ideas full of logical fallacies, lols. If it's broken, demonstrate it, period. Come on. Space. Point to the specific premise. Identify the formal fallacy. Show where the inference fails. LOL, it's not a refutation, it's noise. If I've committed a logical error, name it. If a premise is unsound, explain why. If conclusion doesn't follow, lay out the structure and show the disconnect. That's how rational discourse works. Throwing out malformed and illogical without analysis, not critique, it's dismissal. I'm not interested in posturing. I'm interested in whether the argument stands or falls under scrutiny. If it collapses, I'll concede it. If you can't articulate where it collapses, then what you're reacting to isn't a fallacy, it's discomfort. Do something beneficial at least. You got it. That reads to me like ChatGPT. I don't know. I've interacted with ChatGPT a lot, and that's just kind of how it talks. These kind of dun, 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 this stilted way of talking, you know? So the script that he's doing here, I think he just asked ChatGPT for a script, and this is what he's reading from. Just saying. Maybe I'm wrong. You let me know. Do you think I'm right or wrong about that? Anyways, even if it is from ChatGPT, it doesn't matter. He's presenting it. So now it's his fault for making these bad arguments, because this is bad. Anyways, just my hypothesis. Anyways, all right.
Engineering. We observe DNA carrying more data than that of a library. We observe solar systems operating in perfectly balanced and precise gravitational equilibrium. These are not vague, poetic impressions. These are measurable realities that we could observe. So when you take all of these into account and slow down your thought process and think clearly, you're met with a dilemma. Either intelligence is fundamental to reality, or intelligence emerged from that which had none. And the second option collapses logically. You cannot derive cognition from non-cognition without smuggling intelligence somewhere into that system.
Okay, so false dichotomy, I guess, but you can't do this without smuggling in this is not an argument. It's just a statement they've made without any proof to it. So do you have any actual proof or citations or anything of any nature here? You're just saying stuff. This isn't, by the way, logical. I mean, consciousness arises in conditions where consciousness can arise due to the complex nature of brains. We understand that to some degree. And at some point in our evolutionary history, we weren't conscious at all, and slowly that became more and more complex as time went on. And other creatures, other animals, other insects have different levels of consciousness, you know, and we can observe that behavior. They make choices that are rational and intelligent seeming choices to make. Some are more reactionary than others, you know. It just depends on what you're exploring. You know, you can teach parrots how to speak, and they seem to be able to identify shapes, and or that's really good training. But in either case, they are making a cognitive choice of some sort. They are aware of their environment at the very least. So this is not a process that is misunderstood or non-understood. You simply saying that it doesn't work like I don't want it to work is not an argumentation. You need to actually demonstrate that this is impossible or doesn't happen. And you haven't done that.
Consciousness itself to manifest, there must be a ground before that manifestation that was conscious within itself, intelligent.
For consciousness to manifest, there must be a grounding for the consciousness to manifest in before it can manifest in it. Yeah, the brain. Okay.
Cannot emerge from that which is completely unintelligible without contradiction. There must be a source, there must be this foundational principle that intelligence itself is derived from. And this very fact within itself should show.
Yeah, it's called the brain. It's the brain. It's the brain. That's it. That's what it's coming from. Hello? Hello? The brain. Hello? Okay. The brain. That's where it's coming from. I mean, you know, that's it. That's all. That you have your answer. The brain. Okay. Let's just say it one more time. The brain. Okay.
Show you and start to make you observe the thoughts about an intelligent design or an intelligent designer or God in a more clear and convicted manner, because through logical.
Well, clear and convicted doesn't matter. All that matters is the argument itself. So I'm still waiting for that.
deduction, you'll start to see things that are pretty obvious. That's the beauty of logic. And this harmonious structure that is enveloped in the fabric of reality manifests itself everywhere. Take a butterfly, for example. The butterfly's wings have to be so incredibly symmetrical in order for that butterfly to attract a mate. And if that butterfly is not attractive enough, symmetrical enough, beautiful enough, then that butterfly cannot reproduce. And I'm using this example as a symbol.
That's called natural selection. Okay.
And as a metaphor that could be extrapolated and installed onto my broader claim, which is reality has a fundamental desire, it seems, to beautify itself and to.
Reality has a fundamental desire to beautify itself. What? What? Reality has no desire at all. Reality isn't alive. Why are you anthropomizing reality? Is there a reality, Shan? They've made everything else into a girl. I've seen Earth as a girl. I've seen the moon as a girl. Is reality a girl? Better find out. Let's see. Reality, Shan. Oh, I can't show that. Oh, wait. What? Oh, reality Shan. Here we go. Come on. Yeah. Let's see if I can look at that. Can I show that on screen? Is that going to get me canceled? Holy shit. Yeah, sure. We'll just say it's this. Why not? I think I can show that. I'm pretty sure I can show this on YouTube. I think I can show this on YouTube. Okay, that's reality, Shan, everybody. I think. Sure. Why not? That's what reality looks like as a woman. Man, that was a waste of time. My word, that was a waste of time.
To create further complex and magnificent molecular machinery through the manifestation of organisms and molecular structure.
The complex carbohydrates of the integrations of the subdermications are within the complicated structure within the infiltrations of the sublocation, because the molecular implications are within the time-space continuum, because, as you understand, there is no time within time, right? And if I'm wrong, may I receive a phone call, which would have been about the perfect timing to have a phone ring, but I couldn't quite figure out. Plus, the joke doesn't really make that much sense, because it's not really even a joke. It's just like, I'm going to get a phone call, and then my phone rings, and I go, oh no, like, you know, but it's a setup, so it doesn't really make sense. So I decided not to include this joke in the live stream. So, the fuck, I just said the whole thing. I did it anyways. Oh, God. What am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, anyways, he's just saying words. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Sure, period. This beautiful harmony that we are able to observe as conscious and aware organisms is something that we take for granted because it's so incredibly normal. It's such a normal thing. But once you step out of your normal state of observation and you cast away the veil that is fogging up your conscience, you're then able to see life's beautiful intelligibility that much clearer. It's like putting on rose-colored glasses. Consider our solar system, for example.
Okay.
Earth exists through a very thin permitting band in terms of its location in our solar system. The moon's
not really. The orbit of the Earth is wild. Orbit of Earth. Let's see how far and close we get to the sun. Let's see. So let's see. We're about 91.4 million miles at the closest, and about 152.1 million. Said that wrong. 91.4 million miles, the closest, 94.5 at the farthest away. So about give or take 4 some odd million miles there. You know, yeah, it's just wildly close and far away from the sun that we can be. And we could probably live on Mars. So we definitely could be in a different place in the solar system. But I love this. It's like really weird that we're here and in this place, and that's really amazing, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. Doesn't that mean something? No. Because, like, you know, if we couldn't be here, we wouldn't be here. That doesn't mean anything at all. It's like, wow, it's amazing. We're here. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm not a lobster. I'm a human. What were the chances of that happening? It must mean something. Oh, it's appeal to personal incredulity is all this is.
Stabilizes axial tilt and regulates the Earth's tides. Gravitational constants sit with razor sharp precision. Really slight deviation of our solar system and everything collapses. Why do it?
Not really. A slight thing wouldn't make everything collapse. You would need a major thing for it to collapse, which could happen.
Equations describe reality with such mathematical elegance. It all ties into the same reason. For example, pi is not an invention. It's actually discovered within reality through mathematical formulation. The Fibonacci sequence is not imposed onto nature. It's observed through nature. It appears.
There's patterns. Amazing patterns. Oh my God, patterns. So many patterns. Patterns everywhere. It must mean something. I have to look deeper into it. Patterns. What does it mean? What do they lead to? It must mean something. I think I found it. Oh my God. Yes, I have found it. It all makes sense. It all leads to the weirdness. You see, the weirdness will compel you, and that will lead you to the unraveling of the discovery. The patterns. Right, weirdo?
Everywhere I see them there, I stop and stare at patterns. I don't care, I must declare I've got a flair for patterns. On my hair, the clothes I wear, my savoir-faire is patterns. All I see is patterns, the patterns that repeat.
Anyways, patterns. Yay! That must mean something. I guess.
Appears in growth patterns. The golden ratio appears in galaxies, nebulas, solar systems, and even things like shells on the beach. This observed sacred geometry is anything but mysticism.
It's sacred geometry. Oh, okay. It's not just geometry. It's sacred geometry. I'm a turkey. What the fuck are you talking about? Shit. Fuck. Hell ass. Damn. God. Shit. Fuck. No, that was the other video. Where I swore. Damn it. The other video. Not this video. This video is different. Anyways.
It is pattern recognition of architecture built into the fabric of reality. So even just the few points that I've already made should showcase that reality itself is not random occurrence.
Reality itself is not random occurrence. It's not been showcased by anything that you've said at all. And of course, again, reality versus the universe. Well, okay. Reality is the thing that we're in. Okay, then the universe is a byproduct of reality, I suppose, if you want to separate those two concepts, although they still technically, the universe is in reality, but okay, I can't explain that. It's going to make my head hurt. Anyways, but yeah, it's just, it can't be random. But it can be. It still can be random. And if you have lots of random universes, then at least one of them is going to have something that can maybe make life. And I'm not saying that that is the case, but I'm just saying there's nothing stopping it from being the case. But you haven't demonstrated that it cannot be random at all. Nothing you have said has shown that even a little.
It's not derived from what is unconscious. Personally, I think everything has a level of consciousness and a level of desired orientation throughout the.
Everything has a level of consciousness and an orientation. Hold on. Yeah, bullshit. Sorry. No. 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 Just no.
The cosmos, since the dawn of time, matter itself has desired to further complicate itself and adapt throughout space and time. This very fact showcases
matter has desired itself. 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 Okay. Yeah. Matter has desired itself. That's a poetic way to put it, but taken literally, it doesn't quite hold up. Matter doesn't have desires. Desire requires some form of mind or subjective experience. Damn it, ChatGPT. Ruined everything. Apparently, according to it, matter doesn't have desire. But, you know, he said, this guy with the deep voice said matter has desires. So, you know, there you go. That's it. I mean, we don't need to keep going. I think that's it. The case closed. You know, I mean, just matter has desires. Sure. Why not? All right. Until next time, I don't know. Just matter has desires. Yeah, no, I'm doing part 2 later. I'm done for now. That's it. I'm good. Matter has desires. I got nothing on that one. I don't even know what logical fallacy that is. It's just a thing that he said. My brain is gone. I got nothing. Brain matter just desires. Matter just has desires. Matter has desires. Matter has desires.